Welcome to another episode of the Robinson-Hewitt Pod. This is where we talk about the future of technology and what does it mean to be human in the next era of tech. I'm your host, Alison Mackie. I'm a futurist, anthropologist of emerging technology, and founder of RobinsonHewitt Consulting. Welcome. So last week we looked at the intersection of time and technology and how train stations actually helped us get on time and get to a schedule with everyone else in our surroundings and create this global understanding of what time was. I also posed this other question of what would society look like if we started to develop technology that could tell us exactly when things would happen to us in our own lives? Would you want to know? And what would happen to the human condition if we just knew everything that was going to happen to us, right? And so I also raised this point of the decisions that we make. We actually have a lot of agency towards outcomes, not only within our own lives, but within society in general. And this idea of every decision that you make opens up new potentials and new timelines. And I just want to explore that idea a little bit further. And I want to bring in the idea of the butterfly effect. For those that don't know, the butterfly effect is basically this idea that something as beautiful and delicate as a butterfly flapping its wings somewhere in Asia could actually create a storm over in California, right? And the movie The Butterfly Effect really shows this idea of how something, how the decisions we make really do impact not only our lives, but the people's lives around us as well. The movie itself also had different endings, which was great. And I loved being able to ask other people to be like, what ending did you see? Because everyone had a different experience to the movie, depending on which version they watched. And that in itself is really important to remember of you could be watching the same movie as somebody else, but the experience and ending of it was totally different. And I just want to leave that on the table and leave that for somebody else to think about. But there you go. And working in technology as well, the amount of people and founders that I have met over the years who have the shoulda, woulda, coulda situation of, oh, if only I had come out with the app that I was thinking about back in 2010, or what if I, had done XYZ when the internet first came out. And now we're seeing a lot of those similar types of people saying, oh yeah, AI, I can see the potential in AI. I also brought up the Fibonacci sequence, this idea that things repeat, things cycle back in and out of your lives. That we see this in fashion, we see this with technology, but the same thing actually happens with your own life. And sometimes you get brought the same situation in your life to see how you will react. Will you react the same way, or will you react the way that you actually want to react? And so when I hear people say shoulda, woulda, coulda, there's something in me that's always like, then try. What's stopping you from trying? I often think that the people who have this desire to create something, there's something holding them back from actually pursuing it. To become someone that brings about new technology, to bring about new ideas that change the world, it asks so much of you to break status quo. There's a quote that I love of all the biggest breakthroughs in life were created by someone who others would have seen as crazy. And that's what it takes to actually break the pattern of society, to break the pattern of you have to do something different. And one of my favorite quotes as well is, if you want different, you have to do different. And so this brings about this idea when it comes to founders, when it comes to new technology, this idea of any change is a total change. This is kind of where I want to bring in today's discussion, because we are at such a critical junction point when it comes to technology. If you listen to our nature versus technology episode, you know that I believe that the world is naturally abundant, and it's our decisions that we make today that can either put us on track to a beautiful and abundant life, or a track where technology is leading us to a place that isn't so great. And so I bring this up because how do we change the trajectory that we're on? How do we switch tracks? How do we get to where we actually want to end up? By making the right decisions. And at the top of this episode, I want to remind you that there is no right or wrong. It's just, what outcome are you wanting? That's it. Because if something as delicate as a butterfly flapping its wings can create huge change and huge impact, then the smallest minute change in your own life can also bring about massive impact and massive change. So let's take this idea a little bit further. So part of the human condition is to actually constantly look for change within our lives, to look at alternative versions, to look external within ourselves, to want to expand. Our purpose in this life is literally for expansion. We want to grow, we want to change. And if you don't, there's probably a definition or a belief system within you that is preventing you from doing so. But often we look externally to ourselves. We watch movies, we talk to other people, we read books, we strive for something else. And oftentimes we do, we reflect on our lives. We think, what if I had taken that job? Would things be different? What if I asked the girl out? Would my life look different? What if I had moved somewhere else? But why do we have difficulty changing? Why do we reflect on these moments, these moments that seem to step out to us in our memories? And again, with founders, we have that thing of shoulda, woulda, coulda. I should have done it at this point. Then I would be XYZ at this point, right? We always reflect back on our lives and look at those moments and the decisions that we made and see the outcomes. So we always think about the road not taken. And there is something so innately human about wondering about the other versions of yourself that are living out that potential. What if life had gone the other way? And I like to think about those moments of déjà vu, or when these memories or moments pop into your mind, as almost like a doorway. Those familiar moments that kind of pop up out of nowhere. Those are the moments that ask you, are you going to repeat this out? Are you going to keep this storyline going? Or are you going to do something differently here? Those moments are doorways. Those moments are little signs from yourself telling you, hey, there's potential here to choose something different and take the path that is probably more in alignment to what you're working towards. We have these moments all the time. So in what we eat, the things that we drink, the things that we consume online, the people that we spend our time with, what we say yes to on a constant basis, what we say no to, our routines and our patterns, and the things that we tolerate as well. So when you're playing out your regular life, these little moments may not seem impactful, but really, when you think about them in a collective sense, they create your life. They create your reality around you. So if you want to create something different, and this can be within your own personal life or within society itself, you have to do something differently. You have to break the pattern. You have to break the norm. You have to throw a boulder into the river and change the current. So how is technology changing our relationship with this idea of decision making? So technology is increasingly giving us the ability to see and model consequences that we couldn't previously see before. So this can be seen through impact assessment or impact modeling. And I think insurance is such a great example of this. So we have things like flood mapping to actually show out potential impacts in particular areas. And from this, it can impact our mortgages, our insurance premiums, as well as risk assessment of purchasing property in a flood-prone area. So we're using technology to model the possible consequences of decision making. Do we purchase land here and live on it or not, right? And this has a huge domino effect across so many people's lives and society itself. But at the moment, this is reserved purely for insurance and banking and other scenarios like that. But what if we brought that into our everyday life and had this impact modeling or impact assessment on our everyday life? Instead of using these technologies purely for corporate or political risk, what if we use them in terms of making and understanding our everyday decisions? And I can see this potential playing out within their own chatbots, right? AI is a great synthesizer. It already knows a lot of information about you if you use it on a regular basis. And I think it could actually give you a great synthesized idea of the impacts of your decisions right now. Would it be perfect? No, because obviously it doesn't know everything about you just yet. But I do think it could give you a general penciled outline of an outcome. And I'm not advocating that you do that. Again, I want you to be empowered. I want you to have own agency over your decision making. That is just a scenario that I'm putting out there. So what if you could actually see the ripple effect of a choice? What are the potential outcomes? So let's take this as an easy sort of everyday scenario for us. Okay, so let's give the example of just even changing what you drink in terms of coffee. Say that you drink 1 or 2 regular flat whites every single day, but then you change the milk to skim milk or almond milk. So at first, this seems like a really minor change in your everyday routine, in your everyday life, but really the impacts of that is actually quite enormous. So one, you're changing your calorie intake. If you change from regular milk to almond milk, you could be cutting about 100 to 200 calories every single day. Then has impact on your health, your weight over time. And then from there, you think about the supply chain of the differences between those 2 different milks. We think about the huge differences of like, how are those things transported to your supermarket? What energy and water was used in the production of those 2 products? Are they using ethical farming practices? Where do the other ingredients come from if you're using almond milk? You know, there's so many minute decisions when it just comes to you standing in an aisle or standing at the counter at your local cafe. thinking between regular milk or almond milk. There are so many unseen consequences that are sitting within a singular decision like that. And I do think that technology can be a translator with this. We already have so many apps where it can tell you if are they on a goodbye or a no buy list, right? We have these technologies that are out there. Are they perfect just yet? No, it does take a lot of community effort and community buy-in to build these applications and the data behind all of that. But the tools and the potential is there. And all of this is really useful if you are interested in buying things that are ethically sourced. Thing is, these tools don't require you to become an expert in supply chains or ethical farming. And sometimes that little indicator is enough for you to ask, is this aligned to the future that I want to participate in? It doesn't mean that you don't have to drink coffee anymore. It doesn't mean that you have to stop enjoying your life and the little pleasures that life gives us, right? That's the human thing. And this doesn't have to turn into individual perfectionism, because it shouldn't be on the individual making purchases to change the world, because not every decision that we have to make has to be perfect and totally aligned. The biggest impacts come from the system itself. So we do need to keep looking at the people and the institutions that create these systems that allow for things like unethical labor, for environmental damage, wealth hoarding, as well as bad practices. And there is so much I could go deeper when it comes to the ethics behind all of this, but I think that's for a different conversation. But I will say my point of view right now is I do think that there is still space and time for us to enjoy the human condition as we have it now. I don't want people to go without or, think that they're making the wrong decision. You're not. It is a collective thing, and it shouldn't be up to one person thinking that they have to be perfect 100% of the time. You don't. The thing is, we just need to create space for new systems to be developed so that you can continue enjoying the things that you want to enjoy in this life. That's the whole point. And that just comes down to transforming the traditional, but also allowing people with new ideas to be allowed the opportunity to create change. So let's talk about the future a little bit and this idea of decision making, and if we empower ourselves to make better decisions, where could that lead us? And I just kind of want to bring this more on an individual level to ask you, what do you want out of life? I think another great question to start asking yourself is, what does this choice create for me? Then this is so critical for people who want to build a future, who want to create change in their world, or just have a dream that they want to create for themselves. And again, going back to the butterfly effect, you do not have to be the biggest person in the room to create change. You don't have to be a world leader. You don't have to be a CEO of a huge tech company. You can just be yourself. And that creates change enough. And this is so important, especially for founders or people who just want to create their own thing. When you're building something, or when you're working towards a dream, or when you're working towards an idea that you have, you're not just creating a product or creating new behaviors or creating incentives for other people to follow. You're also making new futures for everybody else as well. And it's important to remember that everything you create has a cause and effect. Everything has a ripple effect. Everything has impact. And again, it's up to our individual experiences to see this as either good or bad or neutral. Again, there is this two-step process. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast before, but there is this two-step process to how things manifest in the world, right? The first is we have the situation itself. There is a moment that happens, and then the second part of the process to this thing happening is actually our reaction to it. So say you spill some milk, right? We could either react to that in a positive way and be like, oh, great, I needed to clean the counters anyway. Or you could see it in a negative and be like, I've just ran out of milk. Great. Or you could see it neutrally and just say, I spilled milk. That's it. Clean it up. Hats off to you if you can take the stoic route with that. But the thing is that every moment that happens in our lives, it only means what it means by our reactions to it. And this is why when you start to notice the patterns and when you start to have those moments of déjà vu, noticing when things pop back around or there's a moment where you can create a moment of change, it is important not to kind of see this as this big dramatic moment, but to kind of stop and think, how can I make change right now? So if every decision you make can create a new potential, a new outcome, what are the small different decisions that I can make right now in this moment that can shift everything around? So these changes don't have to be totally dramatic. They can be as simple as moving furniture around in your house, changing the side of the bed that you sleep on, changing your coffee order, or taking a different route home, taking the left route instead of the right route. Maybe you shower at night. Maybe you start showering in the morning, or maybe you shower both times. When you have those physical, external things around you change, it creates this domino effect. And it's also a great psychological moment as well to say, I am making change. I choose different. And having something physically change in your environment, it could be something trivial like changing the side of the bed that you sleep on. That is a reminder to yourself that you are actually pursuing change itself. And it kind of just reminds you that things are different. So it's important to remember that like doing these little things won't magically change your life. You have to consistently show up and have those moments of change. But the physical change enough is evidence that you are capable of choosing differently. And I think the thing is, again, going back to the butterfly effect and this idea of something so delicate making the biggest impact. Again, you do not have to be a world leader. You do not have to be a CEO of a tech company. You do not have to cure cancer to make impact in the world. You just have to show up authentically as yourself. And I say authentically in loose terms because a lot of us are going through massive amounts of transformation. We want to change ourselves. Becoming authentic means becoming the realist version of yourself, really exploring who you truly are underneath all of the conditioning that we were, raised with from our parents, from society, from advertisements, getting to the real core of who you are, what truly lights you up. That is your authenticity. And having the balance of your work and play. That's how you get to your authentic version of yourself. And so you do not have to end war, cure cancer, or invent something revolutionary. You could be the person that owns the cafe that allows for people to meet and they start brainstorming different ideas that can change the world. You could be that kind neighbor that just offers to babysit or to look after someone's pet when they need to go off to work. Or you could be the supermarket teller that just gives someone a smile and a gracious moment that changes their day and shifts their energy. Whatever it is, show up authentically as yourself. And if you have something to say it. Create space where you can show up authentically as yourself and just start talking, sharing what you've learned, share your journey, building something that you are so truly passionate about. But the thing is, you have to break through not caring what other people think, which can be the thing that holds most of us back. And I get it. I've gone through my evolutions online and it is weird to trial and error. I get it, but you have to take the first step. But if you also want help taking your first step, we have so many free resources available to help you kind of bring all of these ideas to life. So you can check out Founder's Journey, Think Like a Futurist, and our recent edition of Crawl, Walk, Run to take your ideas into action in work and play. So let's bring all of this together. So what does this ultimately mean about becoming human in the future? What do we want to preserve, change, or reconsider for our future? So perhaps one of the most incredible things about being human is that we can imagine the future that doesn't exist yet. That sets us apart from every other animal in the animal kingdom. We have agency to make shifts and choices towards what we actually want to experience, not only for ourselves, but as a society. So I am one of the lucky ones who gets to see all the different potentials and outcomes. That is my gift to the world. But you don't have to see the consequences of those choices. You can literally just show up as the person who owns the cafe to allow people the opportunity to show up and sit and commune with each other. You could start a podcast and no one will hear it for a while, but you just know that someday someone will listen to it that will inspire a thought. You could be a person who changes their routine and ends up going out that night and meeting the love of their life, and you inspire them to create something great. Or you could be the person that builds the next biggest tech thing and you just don't know it yet. Or you could be like JLo, who decides to wear a Versace dress one day and then all of a sudden we have Google images. So thank you to JLo for showing up authentically as yourself and wearing the dress so that it inspired people to create Google images. I just love it. I love that so much. So the thing is, we have these ripple effects that extend beyond our ability to see them. Something as simple as wearing a dress can create huge change in the tech world. How incredible is that? And I think that's almost a responsibility and the magic of being human, that any change is a total change. Any decision made from an authentic place can create huge impact and huge potential. Just knowing that every conscious decision is moving the dial somewhere. You don't have to change everything. You just have to make a decision. And if you want different, do different. So my final thoughts from today is that you have the ability to change the world by simply being yourself. So the question I want to leave you thinking about today is this. What is the smallest decision you can make today that could create a different path for yourself? But if today's episode got you thinking, you can come and join your journey with us. We post nearly every day on Instagram, sharing our insights and inspirations for founders and future-facing leaders. It's a good place to stay curious. But if you want to go deeper, you can head over to our website at RobinsonHewitt.com. We work at the intersection of anthropology, emerging technology, and future systems thinking to help transform, evolve, and build the next era. If you're still orienting, we have so many free resources available on our website to help you with your own founder's journey. But if you want to take the leap, we can also check out our services as well. Make sure to subscribe to help build a better future for everybody. Everything is linked below, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao.